How are y'all doing? I've missed you. Ophelia, Dan, Flickmack, Brilliant Bunny, Silvera, Starnef, Femto, Dan, Dan, Sir Mad Hatter, Courtney, Alexis, Emerald Pigeon, hello, Am, Seapaw, Shrimp Baby, Nikki, Logan, I know you're here. Vic, Chaos, hello, everyone. Merger, hello. Fern, welcome in. Hi, Mom. Well, uh, yeah, hello, everyone. It's been quite a while. Um, for those of you that are maybe just hearing a random uh, overhead voice, my name is Evan. I'm an entomologist. And on Wednesday nights, we use the pasture cams to look around Alveus property and see what bugs we can find and also just answer whatever bug questions you may have. This has been going pretty regularly for a while, but I was at bug camp for a couple weeks at a field station that had somewhat spotty internet. So we took a little bit of a break, but we are back and ready for action. Tonight is a bit of a special bug hunt. For those of you that have been paying attention, does anybody know what this week's bug hunt represents? Hmm. No. Ophelia, yes. London Brawley, yes. Flickmack, yes. Tonight, well, technically tomorrow night, but we're close enough. Um, Last year on August 14th, I did my first chats with Alveus. So it has been a whole year of us doing this. And every week I feel lucky to be here. So thank you all for being here. This community has meant a lot over the past year, and yeah, just super excited that we still get to do this. So that's the specialty of this week's bug hunt. I don't have anything super exciting planned besides that, but yeah, it's been a year. Can you believe it? Austin Tuition, a year for you as well. All right, how are y'all doing? Somebody was asking 1 year of bug hunts, bug camp. Bug camp was great. So the first week, the first 10 days that I was gone, I was teaching a class that covered all families of beetles in the world. So we had 15 students that came from all over the country, all over the world, actually. We had a few people from out of the country that came, and we basically went through the identification resources, looked at specimens, and yeah, covered all of the beetles. I taught that class last 2 years ago as well, and the first time that they ran the class, I was actually a student back in 2019. Then we had a nice little break for 24 hours, and then we went to Weevil Camp. So there was a second class, a second 10-day class, immediately following the beetle course that was just learning weevils specifically, which is a really big group. It's one of, if not the largest in terms of species, families of beetle in the world. So there was a lot to learn, but we had another very good group. And that one I was just a student. So I gave the reins over, learned from some of the experts, and man, I learned a lot about weevils. Weevil camp, yes, exactly. Ooh, we've got a foraging trail happening, chat. So Logan's doing a great job panning up along that ant route. So they have found a food source somewhere. Ants will use pheromones or chemicals that they will lay down in a line to lead other ants from the anthill, usually to the food source or whatever resource that those ants are going for right now. And so that's usually when you'll see lines of ants like that. It's usually a foraging trail where they will be ants going in two directions, like traffic. They'll go down one direction, grab a seed or a piece of food or whatever it is, and then start coming back the opposite direction to get that food resource back to the ant nest. Courtney, ants counting. Maybe. So they are referring to an anecdote that I gave on the on my episode of World's Wildest, which is Maya's podcast. There are ants in the desert that count. They count their steps to be able to get to and from their food source back to the colony. And we know this in that one specific ant, because that ant lives in the desert. And so with sand and everything blowing around, the pheromones don't stay on the ground as well as it does, say, here in the pasture. And so those ants have to have another way of figuring out and orienting where and how far they're going. So these ones probably don't count. They probably don't count their steps because they are able to lay down their pheromone trails. But I don't know that we've done that much testing on other ants besides Cadglyphus. We also now have a dung beetle making its way across the ant trail. Clumsy as always. And yeah, I think it was getting beat up a little bit by the ants. This is just like watching Reed play with the frog. Run, little buddy. Ruby, they're clumsy because they're not optimized for running away. All of their adaptations, their leg sizes, their leg shapes, and everything like that are purely to help them dig and to dig and also be able to access that dung resource. So cutting through, they have these big, broad teeth on their front legs that they're able to basically slice through the dung with, and it makes it easier for them to dig and to break off dung to get the food for their babies. Running is not one of the things that they're optimized for. However, they can fly. So goodbye, beetle. We will see you later. So yeah, they're optimized for different things. It's sort of the same way that like wolf spiders are really good on the ground because they are active ground predators. And so they're super agile on the ground. They're really good at moving over rocks and debris. But something like an orb weaver, like one of those big spiders that we see up in the rafters sometimes with the really big, thick abdomen and the really short legs, those ones aren't made for running on the ground. It's they're pretty clumsy, just like the beetle. So those ones are made and basically excel living up in their webs. But if they get on the ground, they can do okay. It's the same thing. Wolf spiders can climb. They're pretty good at it, but they're not the best at it. So everybody has something that they're usually somewhat specialized for that usually has to do with food or mating or reproduction. Something like that. So a lot of adaptations in insects in terms of how they look and how they move have to do with what they are naturally doing in their environment. And sometimes when we have them here in the pasture, or I guess not with the pasture so much because the IR cams aren't really a big deal for them, but like when we have them at the light sheets, for instance, those are not natural behaviors because there isn't naturally a light source that bright that close to them. So, observing them like this from afar, letting them do their own thing, we are getting a pretty good peek at natural bug behaviors. Uh, Ophelia, I would send Kitty to camp for a little bit and have the professionals come in and do whatever they need to deal with the roaches. They're very hard to deal with on your own, so just getting a professional or having a landlord do it would probably be the best bet. And then eventually, after a couple weeks, you can bring your tarantula back. I've had to move mine several times through like mandatory apartment sprayings, and it's not fun, but it is necessary. Goddess, hello. Donkus, hello. Um, Flick, are there any spiders that don't create web? I don't believe so. So, making silk is the proper term for it. I obviously know what you were saying when saying web. But the web is technically that 3D structure. So, like orb weavers make the orb web, and you've got the funnel weavers that make those little tubes. So, web is the structure made from silk. But spiders can create a lot of different kinds of silk and use them in different ways. So, one type of spider can produce multiple different kinds of silk, and some of it is used to make the outline of the web. Like, we'll talk about orb weavers here for a second. They make the big outside structure out of one type of web. But then they do those little internal connections that are sticky, the parts that actually catch the other bugs, by adding in some other compound or putting in down a slightly different type of web there. So they can do a lot of different things with the same silk. They've got certain silks for making egg sacs. They've got certain silk for lining tunnels, for making webs, doing the sticky bits. So they've got a lot of different kinds of web. And as far as I am aware, which, I'm aware of a lot, but not all things, all spiders can produce silk. But things like tarantulas, wolf spiders, they don't make webs per se. So they still have the ability to make silk. Tarantulas will use certain silks to line their burrows, or even put out like trip lines so they can feel when prey is crawling near their burrows. But they won't make like the big 3D web. So like I said, I think they can all produce silk, and they will all use it in varying ways. But not everything will make a web. We did have a frog chat. It's very nice. It's been a while. You guys certainly have had questions for me. Anything else that you guys want to bring up this evening? I've got maybe the most important piece of entomological news maybe in the past year that we can talk about. But I'm also more than happy to answer your questions. Oh. Pausers hype, pausers hype. New spider just dropped, chat. New spiders just dropped. Ophelia, the stick bug, pretty cool. Pretty cool, but not as cool as this spider here. So I linked the article. I hope it works. It's a tarantula. It's a new type of tarantula. And its genitals... Crazy pause for me to take. Its genitals are so big that they made a new genus. So, this species of tarantula, the pedipalps, we've talked about them, the boxing gloves, the pedipalps, the little sort of leg, not leg things that are actually modified mouth parts, are 4 times as long as the head, or the cephalothorax, so like the head and thorax part of the tarantula combined. And on a 5.5-inch spider, they have 2.5-inch long pedipalps. So about half the length of the body. So they are in letter, Jesus Christ, man. So the pedipalps are almost half as long as the entire spider itself. This paper that I linked has really, really good revision of this genus Monosyntropus, which is... Monosyntropus balfouri is a very cool species of tarantula that's tan and blue, and they can actually live subsocially, so you can keep multiple tarantulas together. I know there have been a lot of questions about that with Ava and Kiwi, if they could be housed together. Those two cannot, but there are certain species of tarantulas that can. And so this new genus, Satyrix, is established basically to accommodate this new spider that has extremely long genitalia. The name, satyr, S-A-T-Y-R, comes from the Greek, whatever the mythology is there. The satyr is a creature of mythology that is known for having rather long genitals. And Rex is king, like Tyrannosaurus Rex. So they made this new genus, Satyrix, to accommodate this one particular species of... this one specific species of tarantula. I saw someone ask where they came from. They are from the Arabian Peninsula and the Horn of Africa. So, Southern Hemisphere. Donkus. The authors are Zamani and Von Worth. I'll link the papers as well. Something else that I've had been slightly slacking on in the previous chats before we took the break, but I'm back on my game now, is posting the chats recaps. So !bug cord if you're not in the Discord yet. We do have a Discord server for all of the Alveus bug fans. So if you have questions throughout the week or something that you want to identify throughout the week, I'll hang out in there, and so we can talk about it there. You can suggest topics for future chats discussions and things like that. But in the bug cord, I do post recaps and will post links and images of things that we talk about. So I know some of these things are fun to hear about, but once you actually see the specimen, it's a lot cooler. So that's exciting. Ostintuition. I keep finding stick bugs where the males are like half the size and ride on the females' backs. I've yet to find any of them separated, and I was wondering if that was classified as sexual parasitism. No. So, in most stick bugs, they will do that. The reason it's not sexual parasitism is because the males are not like... Hello? I'm back? Okay, great. Saved. Um, I have no idea what that was. I have no idea why why the audio cut out there. I did see that you guys were seeing a moth. I was looking at my cable management, so I did in fact not see the moth. If it comes back, I would love to tell you what it was. Sam, welcome in. Fern, do you know of anything I can do as a college freshman to get into a career in entomology? So this will depend on your university and what resources you have available there. But my first bug job, before I knew I wanted to do bugs, I was just trying to get involved with something. And I approached the local natural history museum, and I ended up doing butterfly and moth specimen preparation for like 8 hours a week. And that was my intro into bugs. And after that, I learned that there was an entomology class that I could take, so I took that. And then after I took that is when I switched my major and kind of went way down the rabbit hole and got super into bugs. So the first thing that I would recommend would be seeing if there's any faculty or professors at your university that work with insects. If there are, talk to them. Most entomologists, in fact, all entomologists that I know, are very excited when there are young people that are also interested in entomology. So approaching them, seeing if there's anything that you can do in their lab would be great. Even if you're not like super into fruit flies, but there is a fruit fly lab, I would still go talk to them. The next thing that I would do would be to kind of expand your circle. I know you said there weren't any zoos, but if there is a museum anywhere nearby, like a natural history museum or even a county museum, sometimes at like a nature center, that will have an insect collection of some sort. And you can have a lot of opportunity at those smaller institutions and those smaller nature centers and things like that to really get hands-on with the specimens and hands-on with the insects themselves. Washington State. There are several colleges in Washington that have entomology programs. So, I mean, by all means, do not disclose your location here, but if you want to shoot me a message on the Discord, I would be happy to point you in a direction, if possible. But because entomology is so specialized, a lot of the time the answer is just working in biology in general and figuring out how to shoehorn bugs in any way you can. Like if you do have a local nature center, but they don't have an insect program or something, you could put one together and highlight your interest and be like, oh, hey, native pollinators are really cool, or like these are the bugs that you can find at this park or in this nature center. And just do what you can to advocate and share your interest of insects with others. Like I said, just because it is such a specialized area, not everywhere will have something specific that will get you immediately into bugs. And that's unfortunate. I think all places should have bug things. But even most entomologists, like professionally, a lot of them won't always have an actual degree in entomology. So my undergrad degree was entomology, so I am a weird statistic in this instance. But My master's is in biological sciences, and my PhD that I'm still working on is in evolutionary biology. So all of those things, I still got to work with bugs, but all of them besides my undergrad were not strictly entomology positions. They were entomology adjacent. I was working in bug labs the whole time. I was working with bugs the whole time. However, you can still become an entomologist through a biological science program or just a general biology program. Sun lilies, yes, I did see that. Smithsonian is a bit far from Washington State for that chatter. But yes, there is in fact an entomology position open at the Smithsonian right now. Donkus, you're not though. That's the thing. You don't have to be smart to be an entomologist. You just have to like something. I don't think I'm all like that smart in the grand scheme of things. Like I never had to take organic chemistry or anything like that to do bugs. I just had to take bug class. So, you can get by without having the best academic credentials. I did not graduate college with like the best GPA, but I was still able to get into grad school and then do what I'm doing now. So academics is not everything. Passion and 50-50 kind of getting lucky with positions is the way to go. Conservation degree is entomology in disguise. Basically, yes. Bagel, thanks for linking that. Yeah. Smithsonian is a very cool place. They are the largest entomology collection in the US. They've got about 33 million specimens. So by far the largest. They're the third largest ahead of where I work, the Field Museum in Chicago, and the California Academy of Sciences. So it is a massive, massive collection. They always do have opportunities for volunteers as well, and I know that is not always the easiest thing to do. Fern, if you're still here, getting paid positions is becoming more regular because I think people are recognizing the unfair biases that unpaid internships and unpaid volunteer work create. However, a lot of the older crowd still kind of goes, well, I had to do it. I came in on the weekends and did it for free for 5 years, and that's how I got my experience. And I understand that's not like a viable reality for everybody. And it is certainly a barrier to diversifying the entomological community as a whole. But if you do have the means for that, and certainly do not sacrifice other things, other necessities, if you don't have the ability to volunteer. But lots of places will have things for you to do. Museums and bug labs in particular, there is always something that you can do. And if you can spare the time, and you have like the bandwidth to do it, volunteering is a great way to get in the door. Like I said, I know it's not ideal, and I know not everybody can do it. But if you do have the ability to, people will almost certainly take your help for free. Even if you don't have any experience, they will train you in whatever volunteer position that they need you to, whatever they need you to do. When I started, like I said, pinning butterflies and moths for like 8 hours a week, I applied for a volunteer position with the museum in general. I was like, oh yeah, a docent or whatever, paleontology, I don't really know what I'm getting into. I went to my interviewer, like, just talking with the volunteer coordinator, and she goes, well, how do you feel about bugs? So, at that point, I was like, bugs are fine. I don't really have. They're okay. And they're like, well, would you potentially want to work in our butterfly and moth collection? And I said, I can try. I don't know if I'll like it. I don't know if I'll be good at it, but I can try. And so for the first 2 weeks, they gave me butterfly specimens that had passed from the butterfly garden that they had downstairs. And so they weren't valuable scientific references or anything like that. They were just practice to make sure that I wouldn't screw anything up too much. And then after that, they started slowly giving me more and more precious specimens, research specimens from Vietnam, things like that, that I was able to pin up and practice. So they will train you, because prior to that, I had never prepared an insect specimen. I had never pinned a butterfly or moth. And so, like I said, I did have the fortunate ability to be able to volunteer my time like that. And they do then reward you for that by putting in the effort to train you and give you skills that you could then use to transfer to, paid positions or whatever further down the line. So that is that. Only one harvestman. Usually don't see them singly like that. But he was doing his little dancey dance. Scanning the perimeter. Good eyes, Logan. Good eyes. Who's this? Wolfie. Very good. You guys haven't lost it. You guys were staying brushed up on your bugs while I was gone. Very good. It is International Wolf Day. You're right, Sam. Everybody say Happy International Wolf Day to this spider. So, part of the reason that we can tell this is a wolf spider, vibes. Like I've said many times before, the identifying characters that you need for a lot of these things are microscopic and things that you can't see on the cams. So a lot of the time, you base the identification off of general vibes of previous wolf spiders that you have met. And another thing, we can see glowing eyes. So, two kind of on the back of the head there, we are looking straight over the butt of this spider. And wolf spiders do tend to have eyes placed high up and back on the head. They have extremely good vision. Wolf spiders will, I think, always have 8 eyes. And there is a top row and a bottom row. So you've got the anterior row of eyes and the posterior line of eyes. And that is when you are looking at the spider. So we are looking at the posterior row of eyes right now. And on wolf spiders, the 2 big eyes on the front of the head that are super bright and glowing a lot, those are the posterior median eyes. So they are the 2 eyes on the back row of spider eyes. And then the other 2 are usually kind of lifted and back from there. And it is specifically to help them see more. Unlike insect eyes, they don't have all of those little tiny cells. It is just one lens. So those big eyes are the primary ones that they use to be able to see. But because they have 8 eyes, they can spare some, at least in terms of looking forward, and they can put some off to the side to be able to better see and sense predators coming from other angles. So we are getting kind of just the back portion of that head that we're seeing right now. And if the spider were to turn around for us, which we're probably not going to get that lucky, you would see the two really big posterior median eyes, so those two like big headlights on the front, and then you would see a slightly down curved row of four smaller eyes underneath that. And those are going to be the anterior row of eyes, because again, it's when you're looking at the spider head, which one is front and which one is back. I think I've posted it before. I have a wolf spider eye arrangement tattoo on my wrist, and I can put it in the Discord again later. But you can see that on the tattoo, you have the really big middle eyes on the back, and then you have kind of two little crescents above and to the left of them, and that's because those eyes are offset kind of back behind the head. And that is like, when you're identifying spiders, the eye pattern is incredibly important. Different genera will have different eye patterns. Different families will have different eye patterns. But not all spiders will have 8 eyes. Some will only have 6. Some will have none. So spiders can have 0 to 8 eyes as a group, as a whole. Kiwi and Ava's eyes are directly on the top of their head. I should have some pictures of them that I could also put in the Discord that show that, but they have a very small cluster of eyes, like at the front of their carapace, right in the middle. They aren't spread out. Tarantulas have quite poor vision, in general, so... Bagel, yes, exactly. So what kinds of spiders have 0 eyes? Cave spiders. So, World's Wildest has definitely talked about that too. The cave adaptations where you tend to lose certain characteristics just because they're essentially not needed in a cave. So you'll lose things like wings, you'll lose things like eyes, but then you'll get really, really long antennae, really, really long legs to be able to sense other things. In the absence of light. In a cave, it's dark, so your eyes aren't really going to be doing a whole lot. But then other spiders that have reduced eyes, brown recluses and other sicariids, things in that group, will only have 6 eyes. Ooh, a green lacewing. And there they go. And there they go. So, chat, that was a green lacewing, the family Chrysopidae, and they are related to antlions. So we've talked about antlions on here before. We've talked about antlions during the live bug hunts and owl flies as well. Neuroptera, the order, means nerve-winged. Tortilla, welcome in. Neuroptera means nerved wing, and if you go back and maybe pause the VOD there or get a clip or something, you'll be able to see when those wings open up, they're very lacy. They're called lace wings for a reason. They just have a lot of different nerves and wing veins going through their wings. And that's a characteristic that everything in the order Neuroptera shares. Is it back? Underside of a leaf? Or is this somebody new? The heart of things. They literally don't have eyes. The eyes just don't work. They literally don't have eyes. A lot of the cave spiders would just be totally smooth. Oh, ripped a tortilla's shed. That's a pain. Donkus, crazy thing to say, like always. This guy in the back here that just walked down, that hopefully is going to pop back up here in a second. This was an immature katydid. So this was Orthoptera, related to grasshoppers and crickets. And they have the antennae that are going to be almost as long, if not longer, than the body. So if it ever pops up here, we'll be able to see that it has those big jumping legs. Yeah, there we go, underneath. Logan, you're a champion. Crazy. Look at that. I didn't know we could zoom any further. This is getting nuts. Very impressive. But you can see those big jumping back legs, which are pretty characteristic of Orthoptera. Not all of them have it, but like katydids and crickets, grasshoppers, things like that, will generally all have those very big back legs. And like I said, katydids are part of the long-horned grasshopper group. Their antennae are very long and are going to be much longer than the body. What did Katie do? Chat, you're all so funny, and nobody has ever made that joke before. However, if you must know, the name katydid comes from the call. The calls of some katydids, the the true katydid, Tetagonia, I think, is the genus. Their call goes katydid, katydid, katydid. It's I can post again. I'll post sound recordings of that in the Discord here when we're done. But that is where the name comes from. It's an onomatopoeia of the call of a certain species of them. Not all katydids will sound like that, but that is in fact where the name comes from. Oh, rip Logan. Dead Logan 69. Do spiders have a concept of food if it isn't something that they killed? Yes. So they won't eat like dead or dried things. This is something that's come up in like tarantula keeping for a long time. People trying to feed them like dried mealworms that you can buy for bird food, things like that. They won't take those. But if you have a small tarantula, something like super baby, and you don't have prey that is small enough for them to feed on, you can pre-kill a cricket or just take a leg off of a cricket and feed them that. So they will scavenge at a certain age and on certain sizes of things. But adult spiders will generally kill and consume their own food. Yeah, so they will eat them, usually as immatures, but they as adults they choose what they will and won't eat. Certain spiders, if they get something, beetles in particular are quite difficult, being so hard. So when they fly into webs and things like that, some spiders will go and cut them out and basically be like, this is not worth my time, and cut the beetle out and kind of be on their way with it. So they will decide what they will and won't eat. And sometimes it can be pretty extreme. So fishing spiders in the tropics, fishing spiders in general, the family Dolomitidae, they will fish. They will hang out on the edges of streams and creeks and grab little tiny fish from the surface. In the tropics, where fishing spiders can get to be the size of your hand, I have seen photos of them feeding on frogs, feeding on turtles, feeding on snakes, in addition to fish. So spiders will pretty much eat whatever if it's available. I wrote a paper a couple of years ago. A herpetology professor, so somebody that works on snakes, found a very small snake caught in a spider web in his garage, and the spider was feeding on it. And he brought me on to actually like identify what spider it was. And it turns out it was a relative of a black widow. It wasn't a black widow, so nothing like super venomous or anything like that. But the genus Acegina had never been recorded feeding on a vertebrate before. So it was the first time that we had recorded that. And this spider was maybe like 3 or 4 millimeters long, which is less than the diameter of like a pencil eraser. And the snake was only like 4 inches long too. It was a baby of a very small species of snake. But it was still able to get caught up in that web, and that spider had the wherewithal enough to go, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna eat this. I'm gonna eat this very big snack that has shown up into my web. So they will take non-traditional, I guess I would say, food items, and they will take pre-killed or prey that they stumble upon if the circumstances are correct. But in general, I think I don't know if prefer is the right way to say that, because that feels like very anthropomorphizy. But I would say they kind of prefer to kill and hunt their own food and make their choices that way. Oh, Dead Logan, that was probably old food. Spiders will sometimes keep their old debris in the web as like a distraction for predators. So if something comes up to the web, they have a hard time picking out which one is the spider versus which one is like old food. But they will also store stuff for quite a long time. So the spiders will wrap them in silk. Going back to our silk talk earlier, they're able to wrap it up and kind of I don't know, it's like wrapping a sandwich in aluminum foil, right? It kind of keeps it and preserves it. So they will eat what they can, wrap it up, and then they can go back to it if they need to. So it could have been dead there for a while. It could have been something that they were hanging on to, or it could have been purposeful. But I think if you were to take a dried like dead insect and toss it in the spider web, it would probably cut it out pretty quick. So in Starlight, that's very funny. Guys in the chat, you are being silly. Courtney's right, but I've missed it as well. This has been great. They know how to meal prep for the week. I don't know. I don't know how long it lasts. I don't know how long they can hold an individual food item for. That might have to be something that I have to look into. But yeah, they can in fact hang on to food for a while. I don't know if it's a week. I don't know if it's multiple weeks. Spiders don't need to eat every day. They can go very long periods of time without eating. They store a lot of resources when they can, and then if they don't get food for a little while, they can kind of shut down and not do as much anabolically. So yeah, they can feed pretty regularly when they have food available, but they can also fast for certain periods of time, not necessarily by choice, but like if conditions get bad, they can go for a couple of weeks without food. Stink bug, I think. We got the zoom. Can we get the enhance? Yeah, that's a stink bug. You can see the kind of broad, triangular, like shield shape. And yeah, so this is going to be a true bug in the order Hemiptera. They have the little straw-like mouth part, so this thing is probably feeding on whatever those fleshy stems there are in the middle. Whatever plant that is, they're probably just feeding on the juices of that. Uh-oh. Stinky. Goldberg, do spiders get cancer? I think most organisms can get cancer, but I do not know if there is specifically cancer in spiders. I will look that up and I will put it in the Discord again when we're done here. I can't think of any instances, but maybe. Spiders blowing a hole in your bathroom. That's exciting. I think that's like a good sign of, for people especially who started off as arachnophobic, is getting used to and being okay with a singular spider in your area where you know where it is and it is there and you are like pretty happy to coexist with it. I've heard that from a lot of people that will have like, they're afraid of spiders, but then they get some big orb weaver on their front porch and they're terrified for a while, but then it's there like every day and it's not causing anybody any harm and they're watching it eat bugs and stuff like that, and then they get really attached to these spiders. And especially down here, we've got some really big golden silk orb weavers, which can be like 3 or 4 inches long. People in Florida call them banana spiders, but they're not banana spiders. And I have seen posts in Facebook groups and things like that where people are like, I'm moving, can I take my spider with me? And depending on where you go, you know, if you're just moving across town, that's probably fine. If you're moving across the country, that's probably a bad idea. But yeah, people get attached to spiders that they have or that they see regularly. And so that's always like a good starting point, I think, for people that are afraid of spiders. And sometimes it's like a little tiny cellar spider in the corner of your bathroom. Sometimes it's the big orb weaver outside. I know Bree, one of the other chatters that's usually here, she had a crevice weaver that used to live outside of her apartment door that she got rather attached to. And yeah, it's that one individual spider is doing a lot of heavy lifting on the behalf of all spiders. You know, you get attached to that one individual, and then all of a sudden, maybe all spiders aren't that bad. And I hope that's kind of what we do here with this chat, is we find individuals, and maybe you see one on screen and you're like, oh, maybe that one's not that bad. And then the next week you keep coming back and you keep finding spiders and insects and things that are maybe scary or distasteful for you, and we make them interesting and fascinating and cool because they are. So that is the gist of Bug Hunt. We do have a spider here on the side of the enclosure. There's a moth. There was an antlion. So stuff is starting to pick up, but I think that was overall a fairly successful bug hunt. We have reached the end of time, chat. Sleepy Bunny, we'll end on your comment. A wasp stung you the other day. I'm sorry to hear that. And I stayed calm to let it extract itself. That's good. So, unlike honeybees are the only insect that, when it stings, leaves the stinger behind. Honeybee stingers are barbed, so they have a little hook on them, sort of like a fish hook. But wasps have a smooth stinger, so you let her do her thing, that's fine, but you could have brushed her away and not torn out the stinger. It would have extracted there on its own. Donkus, I'll think about it. I'll think about the dream beetle blunt rotation. Demler, yes, unfortunately, the end of time. Oh, wait, Bagel? Bagel's got one. We're going to end it on Bagel. Shrimp Baby, it has been so long. Oh, okay. This is a great final question. And this is the last one for real this time. So Bagel asked, have you seen anything about Acrophylla alta, the new stick insect in Australia? It's interesting to me that its discovery broke through into mainstream media when lots of other research does not. Why is that? That is an excellent question. And there is some part of it that comes from scientists realizing that getting public attention for their research and getting it out on mainstream media is beneficial for science everywhere. So when you find these things where you're like, oh, we found a new stick bug. Captain Magic Man, I love that your first time chat was stick bug. Excellent. Stories like that are good for entomology and for biological sciences everywhere because a lot of people don't even really think about the fact that there are bugs that we don't know of yet. Tortilla nailed it on the head here. New discovered flea, of course, we didn't know it was out there, but a branch insect, meaning a stick insect that's really, really big. It's kind of crazy that we didn't know it existed. So I think it's partially, it is a really cool discovery to find like a new biggest bug or a bug of that size. But I also think that those folks who found it probably reached out to media outlets to get coverage of that story. Ooh, dust blowing in. And I think in general that's probably why. And once one article picks it up, there's going to be a bunch of other news outlets that'll cover it as well. It's the same reason why, like, a couple years ago, a friend of mine named a millipede after Taylor Swift. Speaking of, she is announcing a new album. She announced a new album. I am very excited about that. But that got picked up in the news a ton because there is that, like, front-facing factor of, like, oh, this is a media thing that I can relate to. I know what Taylor Swift is. There's also a little tiny beetle named after Greta Thunberg. There's a moth that's named after Donald Trump. You know, there's all kinds of stuff. And good or bad press, it's press nonetheless that we are still finding bugs and still discovering things. So I think it gained traction probably because it was such a big discovery in terms of like the size of the insect and it still being new. But also I do think that they probably attempted to market it in some way. That was a fantastic last question, Bagel. Thank you, thank you. And I think we're going to call it there, chat. Thank you again for 1 full year of bug hunts. If you missed it at the beginning, tomorrow officially is 1 year since my first ever chats. So thank you all for sticking around. Thank you all for being here and interested every Wednesday. Like I said, this community has meant a ton to me over the last year. And I can't imagine this last year without it. So it's been great. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you, as always, to Logan for driving cams for us. We appreciate you as well. You've been here doing cam ops for way more than a year. And so very grateful that you extend your skills here for us at Bug Hunt. Join the Discord, ! Bugcord. We hang out in there throughout the week, so if you have bug questions or cool pictures or you want to post links to things like this new giant stick bug, we can post that in there. I know we've talked about it in there just a little bit. There is one more thing that I'm going to mention tonight. Some of you are already talking about it, and it was not meant to be out this early. However, I did my first Twitch stream on Monday night. I was just planning to kind of try to figure out how to work Twitch, but then a bunch of people from the community showed up, so that was pretty wild. We did specimen processing, so we looked at things under a microscope. I have a microscope with a camera attachment, so I'm partially going to use this to work through my specimen backlog, but also get to talk and show off cool things to you guys, teach you more about specimen preparation and identification. So, yeah, I don't know when the next stream will be. I still have to figure out things with my camera and all of that. I don't have a schedule. I don't know if I'll ever have a set schedule. But if you want to see more cool bug stuff and kind of have chat supplementals, if you will, I wouldn't mind a follow over there if you could spare some. So thank you for all of you that are probably doing that. I know it won't chat alert or anything like that, but I do sincerely appreciate all of the support that this community has given over the last year and will continue to give moving forward. So I will see you all later. Have a nice buggy night, and we will be back here, same time, same place, next week for another Alveus bug hunt. Good night, chat. Talk to you later.